This is not the monster film you're expecting. Well, maybe it is if you read the book, because this is a pretty decent adaptation. Frankenstein, the Guillermo Del Toro version, just dropped on Netflix. This was a film that was highly anticipated. I really wanted to see it, so I was really looking forward to it. I just watched it, and I'm here to give you my first impressions on the film, what I thought, some of the things I liked, I didn't like, and whether I recommend it or not. This is Big Mike for Right on Cue, and this is my first impressions on the film Frankenstein. I'm gonna go over the film, give you my thoughts, talk about the things I liked, I didn't like, talk about some of the themes and the motifs in the film. And then at the end, I'm gonna give you my recommendation of whether this film is worth watching or not, maybe give it a rating. So you're gonna wanna stick around to the end of the video to see that. And if you like watching me talk about films and hidden gems and retro rewinds and all the cool stuff coming to streaming, give me a like, a subscription, a follow, whatever you wanna do. It'll help the channel out a lot and I really appreciate it. So without further ado, let's dive in. The film opens up in the far north and there's a boat that's trapped in the ice. They see something burning out in the distance. They go and they discover a banged up, mangled Victor Frankenstein. They hear this growl and this creature nearby. They take Victor onto their ship and the creature attacks, kills several men. They fight it off, they think it's dead, and Victor tells them it'll come back. And Victor starts telling the captain of the boat his tale. And this is exactly how it happens in the book. So we start with the prelude and then we hear Victor's tale. So Victor tells him first about his youth, how strict and cruel his father was. He really loved his mother, but his father was cruel, didn't really love him. He was strict. And you see his upbringing, you see the rough childhood he had. His mother dies in childbirth, delivering his brother, and his brother is the light of his father's eye, and he has a great relationship with his father. Meanwhile, his father is very strict with Victor, and he grows up resenting him. He even mentions that he is going to learn more than his father. He's going to conquer death. He blames his father for his mother's death, and he says, "You couldn't save her." His father says, "No one can conquer death." And he's like, "Well, I will." It sets up this whole thing where he's trying to create life, not so much to create life or to help people or to advance science. It's to prove his father wrong. He's going to conquer death. Really great moment in this film where he finally achieves his goal. He gives life to this creature. And then it seems like the second that he gave life to this creature, the interest and the passion just died. Victor basically is the father of this creature, and he doesn't give this creature a name. He calls it. He doesn't call him he or him or a person or a human or anything. He chains him up in the basement of his castle, basically. It just shows you what kind of person Victor is. Once he got what he wanted, which was to prove that he could conquer death, the rest of it didn't matter. He didn't give any thought about what to do with the creature once it's born, how to teach it, anything like that. It was just the sole drive of the action that he wanted to achieve, and not so much the aftermath or what happens after that. There's an interview with Guillermo Del Toro, and a part of this film is showing the cycle of father to son, and then that son repeating the same mistakes for his son, and the cycle continues on and on and on. Victor, who was cruelly mistreated by his father and hit in the face when he got a biology or medical question wrong, he does the same exact thing when the learning of the creature is too slow. The creature only says one word, Victor. He doesn't say anything else, and Victor becomes cruel. He begins to abuse the creature. He chains him up. He's exactly like his father, and it just shows that cycle. The creature is an innocent being, and the way it's raised is making it violent and making it become the creature it becomes. So it's a whole nurture versus nature thing. There's a lot of talk about choice and the lack of choice that some people have, where the creature didn't really have a choice of getting this life. There's also a lot of biblical imagery in this, because to this creature, Victor is God. He gave him life, and then he turned his back to him. And sometimes there's a lot of stories in the Bible where people are tested and they feel like God has turned their backs on him or on them. And you get that feeling in this film. It's not a coincidence that when the creature escapes from Victor trying to kill him, and he's wandering through the woods, and he sneaks into a cabin and he's resting there, and he meets the blind man who becomes sort of his actual father and his friend. The first book they read together is the Bible, so it's not a coincidence that that happens. So Victor's story ends with him setting fire to his lab. In the present time, the creature shows up on the boat. He breaks into the captain's cabin and he's about to kill the captain when Victor talks him out of it. The captain basically says, "Go on, prove your master right. He told me his story," which makes the creature say that he's going to tell him his side of the story. What happens after the fire was set? Then we go into part 2, which is the creature story. He tells about how he got out of the burning ruins of the castle, made it to land, was immediately hunted by people who didn't understand him. He found his way to a farm, basically, where a family lived, and he snuck into the sawmill that wasn't used very often. In there, he would look through the cracks of the rooms, and he would see this family that he desperately wanted to be a part of. He wanted to find a way to contribute to them. So he would do things like chop wood for them, fix their fences, things like that. And the family called it the spirit of the forest. But the old man who lived there, he's blind. He had a sense that someone was there, and he kind of knew what was going on. Come winter, wolves attack, kill the sheep, and the family decides to leave to go hunt the wolves for the winter, and then they'll come back. The grandfather stays, and the creature reveals himself to the grandfather, and there he finds a compassionate soul, someone who is kind, nurturing, a real father, someone who's going to teach him. And they become friends, and the grandfather begins to teach Frankenstein how to read, how to talk better, and he gets the family he always wanted. He still doesn't know where he came from or who he is or what happened to him, and so he goes back to the castle. He finds Victor's notes and charts and things that he wrote out and photographs of his corpse, and he realizes what he is. He also finds an invitation to William's wedding. William is Victor's brother who's getting married to Elizabeth. He finds the invitation to the wedding and the address, so he knows where to get to Victor. He goes to Victor and he talks to him, much more educated now, and he says that he wants a companion because he can't die. He's all alone. No one will accept him. He wants a companion. Victor flatly refuses, and they get into a shouting match, and then the creature starts throwing Victor around the room, prompting people to come in. Elizabeth comes in, and she had this connection with the creature from the very beginning when she met him at the lab. She thought he was an innocent soul, a pure soul, because he was almost like a newborn, and his soul was clean until it was infected by people around him. And they have this connection. Victor, in a moment of rage, gets a gun and he goes to shoot the creature. Elizabeth gets in the way. He shoots her. He blames the creature for the death, and he stalks the creature through the woods, finds him in the cave where Elizabeth has perished and died, and he continues hunting the creature through the snow, through the mountains, through the forest. And in the present day, after hearing that story, Victor finally realizes he's the monster, which is the kind of the theme of the story. It's the creature is not the monster is Victor Frankenstein. He realizes that, he begs for forgiveness. The creature gives him the forgiveness he wants. The old man actually told him that if he forgave the people who wronged him, he could live himself. And then with that forgiveness, Victor dies and the creature leaves peacefully from the ship. He frees the ship from this ice that they've been stuck in, and the sailors on the ship all cheer and they go, "Yay, we're free, we're free." The captain, having heard this tale of chasing glory and chasing dreams, instead of continue on with their mission to the North Pole, he decides they're going home. And it's another thing where he hears the cautionary tale, and he decides to not follow the doomed footsteps of Victor. That, in a nutshell, is the film. It's fairly accurate. The main differences between the book is that in the book, William is a young boy and not an adult who's getting married to Elizabeth. Elizabeth is always betrothed to Victor in the book. William, as a young boy, is out in the woods, and the creature stumbles upon William. Thinking the young boy isn't prejudiced, it thinks it can take him as a companion. The boy is startled, and the creature accidentally kills the boy, and then he blames a maid by putting its locket on the maid. She, in the book, she actually confesses because she's threatened with excommunication and heresy, and Victor doesn't say anything even though he knows the truth. She's also killed, so he's responsible for many innocent deaths in the book. And then the creature says he's going to see him on his wedding night. Victor thinks the creature is going to come and kill him, so he has a pistol. He's walking around the grounds, but in reality, the creature sneaks into Elizabeth's room, strangles her to death, because Victor in the book was creating a companion for him and then stopped, and this was his revenge. So the book is a lot, I'd say, darker even than the film. The film is pretty dark itself. It's very gritty. The tone is dark and sad, melancholic. But the book, I think, goes even further. So in a nutshell, that's the film. I actually quite liked it. I do think it was a little bit long. It's 2.5 hours. I do think it was a tad long. I think the acting's great, especially from Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi as the creature. Mia Goth plays Elizabeth. She does a great job as well. The costumes, the set design, everything about this film felt authentic. It was a big production. It was an expensive production. You could tell from the production design. Everything looked great. There were a few things I found a little weird. There's a scene towards the end where the creature holds a stick of dynamite and says, if I die, great, but if I don't, I'm going to come for you. And then he's literally holding a stick of dynamite. There's this gigantic explosion and he's kind of just fine and he heals himself really quick. And I was like, wouldn't all his arms and limbs be flown everywhere and he'd just be like separated into thousands and thousands of pieces? That was a little weird. The strength level of the creature changes from scene to scene, where in one scene he's fighting off a few men and kind of hurling them off, or he's ripping a wolf in half. And then towards the end, he's pushing this like 100-ton boat by himself. And it's like, okay. And he's taking bullet shots at the beginning like a Marvel superhero. I was like, okay, that's a little, it's not the grounded film I was expecting. Some of that stuff was a little weird. And the rest was very grounded and very true to the book and everything else. So it was kind of strange to see some of those scenes. I did wish they would have included the whole mate creation that the book had, because in the book, Victor at first agrees to create a mate, and partially through he realizes the error of his ways. He destroys the mate, the corpse he's creating for the creature. The creature is enraged, and to punish Victor, he kills Elizabeth. In the film, Victor accidentally shoots and kills Elizabeth. And I think Guillermo Del Toro really wanted to drive home the fact that Victor is the monster in this film and not the creature. But I thought it was a little heavy-handed, where it's like, he's just blaming the creature for everybody's death. He's accidentally shooting Elizabeth. And I think everyone could already realize he was the monster in the film with the way he treated the creature and some of his actions. I would have liked the whole wedding plot and the creature being created for Frankenstein to be similar to what the book was, but alas, it wasn't. There's obviously other differences, but overall it's a pretty faithful adaptation, especially with the prelude at the beginning, the ending, and a lot of what happens in the middle. It's a great film. It's a great looking film. The music's great. Do I recommend watching it? Yes, I do. It's a great film. I'm not going to try and compare it to the other Frankenstein versions out there. It's kind of its own thing. It's a very faithful adaptation that takes a few liberties with itself, but you kind of have to, otherwise why create a film when it's exactly the same as a book? And if I had to rate it, I was looking on IMDb, it's at a 7.7. I think that's a little high for this film. I don't think this is Guillermo Del Toro's best film. I think right around a 7 is a fair score for this film. Definitely worth watching, definitely worth checking out, especially if you like gothic stories, especially if you like the Frankenstein story, especially if you like father-son stories and creator and creation stories. All of those motifs and themes play out through the film and are very important. So if any of that is of interest to you, definitely check it out. This has been Big Mike for Right on Cue. Follow me on I was gonna say LinkedIn, but I mean, don't follow me on LinkedIn. That's kind of weird. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Subscribe to the channel if you had a good time watching this review. Leave a comment with what you thought of the film. What are your favorite Frankenstein versions? Is it this one, the 1931 one, the De Niro one? I'm sure there's dozens that I'm forgetting. What's your favorite version? I'd love to know. I love reading the comments from people and seeing what everyone's thinking, because I know my thoughts are just my opinion. So looking forward to seeing what you all think. Hope you had a good time. And remember, stop scrolling, start watching.